and this is towards the Uganda Airlines and also the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority. The Speaker of Parliament, Jacob, both also coming out since then, reminding accounting officers that are appearing before these parliamentary committees that it is not courtesy, but it is part of a constitutional accountability, and that is to citizens through Parliament. And this is not even confined in one institution. Earlier this month, COSASE members did travel to Mombasa. They did make inspection of Ugandan government properties managed by Uganda Property Holdings Limited there. They found several assets being in poor condition, and you do have many questions being raised about billions of shillings in unpaid rent. And then you also do have issues around land there and the failure to maximize really the value of our public property. Uganda's properties in Mombasa alone were reportedly to be worth about 96 billion Ugandan shillings. So the issue before us is no longer simply whether our parliament can uncover problems. The bigger test is whether these findings can actually be translated into recovery of public money, sanctions where wrongdoing is established, and stronger institutional controls and better services to the taxpayer, which is you and me. So because an investigation that produces headlines but no recovery, no reform or no accountability risks becoming just another item in the news cycle, tonight we're asking ourselves the question: what practical actions can follow an investigation, especially in the case of COSASE? Joining me for these discussions, I do have Honorable George Musisi, who is Member of Parliament representing the people of Chira Municipality, but also serving as the Deputy Chairperson of the COSASE Committee. Good morning to you, and you're most welcome to the program.
Good morning, Priscilla. Good morning to the listeners. Pleasure to be here always.
It's a pleasure to have you. We also do have Engineer Ian Chaine, who is serving in government right now at a Local Council 5 as the chairman. You're most welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. The wonderful lady on this panel. I think you are the most wonderful lady.
Oh, thank you very much.
And all our listeners, I think we will have a good time with you.
Thank you so much, Engineer. We also do have Mr. Geoffrey Mgisha, who's serving as the chairperson, NRM, National Youth Forum, joining us to give the perspectives of the young voices being invited to the table where decisions and, some recommendations are being made. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Priscilla.
How are you?
I'm good,
Okay.
and thank you for having me.
All right, so let's first start with Honorable Musisi. For people who may not be understanding COSASE and its mandate and responsibilities, could you please give us an overview of the committee and what its duties are to the nation?
Thank you, Priscilla. Well, Parliament has a duty. Among the key core functions of Parliament is to do oversight. After you've appropriated finances to the different departments or ministries or government agencies, you have a duty to examine how they used the resources you gave them. And Parliament principally works through committees. It has several committees. COSASE, which is a public accounts committee, is an oversight committee. It's meant to carry out oversight, particularly on looking at the commissions like Public Service Commission, Youth Service Commission. Those are constitutional bodies. Then state enterprises. The state has businesses that it has invested into money, or where it is a majority shareholder, like Uganda Airlines, like Housing Finance Bank, like New Vision, and so on and so forth. And then lastly, the authorities. Those are the bodies that are established by statutory acts, like NIDA, like Revenue Authority, and so on and so forth. Parliament has other committees. It has a Public Accounts Committee, which looks into local government, where Engineer Chaine falls. How exactly doing the same thing, how they have used the monies that have been given to them. It has what we call PAC Central, the Public Accounts Committee, looking at ministries, how they've used the money. And then, of course, the Government Assurances Committee, which looks at some of the pledges. So principally, these accountability committees are meant to carry out oversight on how have you used the money that we gave you. The Auditor General, after every financial year, audits these different bodies and makes a report. The Auditor General makes that report on behalf of Parliament, because Parliament is the representative of the whole general population. We represent you and me, the taxpayers, because the executive is to implement. Of course, judiciary is to arbitrate. Parliament is exactly working on behalf of the people. That how do you follow up? And that's the point the Speaker was making in Parliament, that accounting officers, you are here to account to Parliament is to account to Ugandans. So when the Auditor General makes the reports, he reports to Parliament, and the Parliament or the Speaker sends them to the different committees, the respective committees where the reports are handled. So COSASE receives those reports within its mandate from state enterprises, commissions, and authorities. And right now, we are looking at financial year 2024-2025. Financial year 25-26 is yet to be reported to Parliament. Maybe in about 2-3 months, they'll report, then we can start work on that. So we're looking at what Auditor General, and what happens when the Auditor General makes findings and makes the reports, and the management responds to those reports, because the Auditor General gives them a chance to respond, and they put all this in the committee. So what the committee does is to look at what the Auditor General found out, look at the management response, and examine whether indeed there's been a movement forward. And
on that note, where exactly does physical inspection come in on that element of examination? Because
in the manner in which you expended this money, all these authorities sometimes do physical things. For instance, let me take an example of Civil Aviation Authority. You say that you got these kind of billions to build an airfield at Pakuba or at Soroti or at Gulu Airfield. And the Auditor General found that maybe the timelines, you didn't finish the airfield within the particular timeline. So you may need to visit, because the management response could be, yes, we did finish within the timelines, but now we have improved, we're trying to finish this up. So can you try to ascertain? You look at Temangalo, Auditor General found that this issue of land, the 55 acres, which you reported on in your news, very well captured last evening, for over 10 years, the Auditor General has been making this issue a sticky issue, that the NSSF hasn't fully occupied the entire land that it paid for in 2008. So, and it has been coming a recurrent issue in the Auditor General's reports. Management says, okay, out of the 55, we since recovered 10, but now this tenant, he has cows on the land, he's telling us he's going to be, he's going to move, but so we say, let us go and see, ascertain what is exactly on the land. After we go and see, then we can summon the person who is on the land to tell us. So, because it's one thing for a person to come and tell you something on the camera, or report something in the paper. It's a different thing when you go there physically, because when you go there physically, you meet all sorts of rot. You get an actual picture of what is on the ground, than relying on the report. All right. So, from central government perspective to local government perspective, Engineer Cheyune, Gwabirako ground, when it comes to the methodology that is being applied by some of these committees, having physical inspections to make sure that what is in any given report is actually what is on ground. How important is that in terms of effective service delivery?
I think what we all should know is that like any other person who gives you money, because Parliament appropriates money to different entities, and when they do that, they look at what actually we are supposed to do. You know, we have development plans on the ground. We are also supposed to interact together with the National Development Plan, now NDP 4. So what happens basically is to make sure that they come down to see whether what has been talked about within the Auditor General's report and any other report given the opportunity as a committee or committees, they come down actually to ascertain. But the main purpose is the oversight role, which I believe is necessary, because sometimes even the challenges they find down there can inform their future decisions, especially for the purpose of development of those entities in line with what they are interested in. But also to ascertain, like one member of Parliament has said, if the Auditor General said, we did this, and there is a management letter which is showing that there is some action taken, the question is, has it been fully done? The Auditor General, given his size and number of staff in his office, might not be able to do all of that. But I think it is also another way of trying to keep the local government, for instance, in the know that there is someone going to come at one time and inquire more about what we are doing.
So is this
going to the ground, physical inspection, I would really...
Produces better accountability?
Exactly. Number one, it makes everybody know that you not only use paper to explain, but there are issues which are behind this. For instance, if it is an installation of any of the requirements within the expenditure. Like he has given an example, a real estate is something tangible, which you can touch, you can see. Secondary, if you are talking about constructing roads and they come down. I remember one time when members of parliament, my company, quick construction company, was constructing a drainage channel in Machi in the division. And the whole parliament, a big number of them came to see whether really that drainage is in place. Many other of these have been found out to be sometimes not the real actual work. Sometimes I think this informs the next decision. But also, most importantly, if you are doing some work and there is no inspection behind you, what do you expect? Some people are so loose, they can easily lose the direction and you find that they might not do the correct thing. But as soon as they know that there is going to be a time when an inspection, a requirement for some of these committees to come down to the ground, they start also remembering that whatever we are doing, it can cause any problem if we do not actually do it to the best as expected. What I've seen in my experience with COSASE, for example, sometimes when they go back, they don't come back.
It's a one-time inspection.
Yes. Maybe because of time, I don't know. It's important that when you go and you find some challenges, you make some recommendations, again, you have to come back. But of course, forth and back movements, we know the costs are very high. I think the most important is the local government, for instance, to make sure that they continuously implement government programs without actually calling the need for these members of parliament to come. But I also know they might be coming after being tipped about some challenges in some of these programs. My main aim as a chairman of the district is to inspect on their behalf. If you have been following my work in this short time I've been in the office, I'm on the ground. I'm moving to these projects to ascertain myself. And if there are issues, I call the responsible officers, the contractors, the engineers, or any other person. The other day I was in a health center 3 in Ibulova. It's newly constructed. I had to go and inspect and see whether all the equipments are there, whether everything has been properly put in place. So very soon we'll be launching it. But I think COSASE and any other committee moving down to the ground is a necessity. It will ascertain them on what they are trying to appropriate for. They will prove that their energy and effort is not worthless. And at the end of the day, they also help the government of Uganda to continue as an ombudsman.
Let's hear from the perspective of the youth. Geoffrey, as you are on this table, you've had the submissions that have been presented by the seniors so far. What do you make of it, especially in reference of what has been seen on ground? Because at the end of the day, it's the young people who are on ground, who are being inspected while they are serving government or privately in their different capacities. Young Ugandans are seeing parliament moving from hearings and committee sittings, moving outside of those rooms into inspection, coming to ground. What confidence does that give you in terms of oversight, accountability, transparency?
Well, in my recent article in the Daily Monitor, I wrote about protecting the gains. And I asked, will the vision of protecting the gains outlive the slogan? Are we sloganeering or are we chasing after a certain vision? And I've witnessed this. It is, it is said, and it is a fact, that over 75% of Ugandans, of the 40+ million Ugandans, are under 30 years. That means that 7 in 10 Ugandans are under 30 years. Then the question is, how does this reflect on the ground? We have the National Youth Council, for example, as the body and the structure, the institution for the young people to exercise their leadership. However, the National Youth Council is docile, it is senile, it is incapable of monitoring, yet it is accountable to the young people. What is the essence of establishing these structures if it is not for them to be empowered and follow up after the promises and the pledges of government? We are wondering as young people to whom this government should be accountable to. You campaigned to these young people, but then the young people do not have, they have a mandate that is not functional. The National Youth Council is not facilitated, yet it has structures to the LC structure. We have 72,000 villages in Uganda, with each village having 9 youth leaders. But if you are to ask me as a youth leader, as a representative of these young people, after voting, that's all there is. There is no facilitation, there is no orientation, there is no discussion, they are not part of the conversation. So that is the plight we are in as young people and as the country. As the country is growing, yes, we are 60 plus years as Uganda, I would like to issue like a concern, especially to the establishment from which I actually belong. And we've been screaming these things and saying, look, here, Uganda is beyond you. As we are fighting, as you're claiming you fought for the 40 years, there is also the next 40 years. And this country is going to outlive all of us, by the way. We are accountable to this country. If you do not institute systems that are supposed to nurture leaders, for a leader at the LC1 level to know their powers and responsibilities, to be able to monitor government programs, we are doomed to fail.
So it's not enough that we have people being elected into these positions, especially young leaders, but it comes down to, have you trained them? Have you equipped them to understand their duties and responsibilities before a COSASE committee can come and put them in a Kwagama position? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Actually, I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I happened to organize other young people for a community cleanup exercise. I mobilized, we put in our resources, and we interacted with the LC1 chairperson who okayed everything. And lo and behold, as we are doing the cleaning itself, we got this, they are given tenders, some companies, and with some KCCA executives who came on the ground telling us that we are doing something that is illegal. And so we needed clearance, I think, from the executive director to do an LC1 level cleanup. What does that mean? It means that if we need clearance from the top for bottom-like exercises, it is not going to work. That's not how systems work. And most of the things that we are doing as the ruling party and as government are superficial, and people can tell that we are lying. So
what do you believe is the role of inspection?
Well, before we even do inspection, we need to encourage a culture where local leaders are involved in monitoring government programs. The issue of inspecting from the top, coming down to these lower levels, it will be superficial. It will create a facade, a picture of, oh, things are moving on well, there is something being done. But after the cameras, behind the scenes, what is happening? Nothing. And I will tell you this before these cameras. Some of the people that have been arrested so far through these exercises that are ongoing, are fighting corruption. I can tell you this, as a matter of fact, they are out of the cells. There is no follow-up being done. There is no accountability beyond the cameras. That's what we are saying, and that is what, I actually thank Honorable Musisi and the team. You hold on to this. Hold the government accountable. This is what Ugandans desire. This is the cry from Ugandans. We want to see a better Uganda. We want to see a better Kampala. We want to see better communities.
All right. Thank you so much, Geoffrey. And coming back to you, Honorable Musisi, the two gentlemen really alluding to the fact that at the end of the day, even though Parliament can have the supervisory and inspectory powers, if they too are not equipped enough to do their own monitoring and evaluation, it goes a long way in stretching service delivery to the people. Let's assume COSASE establishes that money has been mismanaged in an institution, or someone has failed to do their job very well. What happens next within maybe 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days, especially for the cases that you have so far handled? What
happens is that after we've concluded our investigation or looking into the Auditor General findings, and then because we can't even go beyond the findings, because the Auditor General is supposed to red flag. For instance, if you go to the ground and you find something even totally different, we are supposed to retreat and write a report because COSASE is a committee of parliament who work on behalf of parliament. When we write that report, we lay it before parliament, which of course parliament makes recommendations. And in the past, we've had problems with some of the commission recommendations, which some of which could be vague. You're supposed to make specific recommendations attributing the lack of money or the abuse of funds to a particular person or persons who should take responsibility. Because at the end of the day, Parliament is not a prosecuting body. Parliament, if it makes these reports, we've always said that the fight against corruption will take the will of all the agencies and everyone involved. When Parliament makes those recommendations, another responsible person or institution is supposed to pick them up and use them for action. For instance, I look at, for instance, if court makes a judgment and says that this land belongs to Inginyache Union, not to Mr. Mugisha, it's not court it's not the judicial officer who's going to go and execute the judgment to put it in effect, to hand over the land. He has made the pronouncement. So Parliament makes the recommendation. And by the way, on that committee, apart from us members, there's a team. For instance, COSASE has a technical team of over 20 people, of economists, of people from the Auditor General's office. It's supposed to have people from IGG, police officers, who are supposed to take that up now and say that, okay, there's this recommendation. Can IGG take it up? Can CID take it up? That's what happens. And then the if there is any criminal element, the prosecutors can swing into play. If there are other recommendations which are not necessarily criminal, for instance, we recommended that the board was responsible for not playing its role, and thus also board and management should take responsibility. The appointing authority of the board should be able to pick that up and take action based on that recommendation. In the past, we've had committee, COSASE in particular, reports trashed, and 2-3 years down the road, it was found that indeed they were accurate. Like, for instance, the issue of Uganda Airlines. You know that the Honorable Jolson Nyiled COSASE made a good report, which due to the machinations in Parliament was foiled. And 3 years down the road, it was found that actually all the rot that they discovered is what they're talking about now, which even the head of state took action just last year. I'm seeing lately there's a lot of action around the Ginger Expressway project, and I've seen the head of state saying, and some people have been, Honorable Muhammad Mwanga Chivumbi, when he laid park, it's not even been 2 years ago, he made a good report about that and unearthing the rot on that road. So if you don't take action by the responsible agencies, it means that you are condoning the rot that was found. And as we can see, it means that the other person is continuing with the abuse. Engineer Chaine,
you're the one who's on ground in terms of the relationship between any given report that has been compiled by the powers that be and the action that is usually taken. What is the reality, especially for local government leadership?
I think there is a gap between the concerns that have been developed within the report and the dissemination or sharing of this information. Quite often this becomes a privy of the Parliament and maybe other powers that are. And I think that's a big weakness because, like I said, they come, they see, but they don't come back. Now, one way of coming back would be to invite the same people and say, this is the report, this is our findings, and these are the recommendations we are having. Normally, they go back to the authority because COSASE or any other committee is a committee of Parliament. So normally you find them going to the plenary to lay their report on the table before the speaker. And normally, these are the issues which are actually remaining in Parliament. You find that there are challenges. Whatever they talk about while they are in the committee, it almost remains as if that is the final statement. And I think we need to look at that deeply. What do we do? Should we always have another visit? Last time you came here, we came to the ground, these are our findings, and these are our recommendations. Because I think that way we can be able to share
How
information.
would you suggest that that gap be bridged? Because if COSASE is having to look at institutions, or even a PAC for local government, it has to look at all of local government in one financial year, they may not be in position to come back to Wakiso. However, in their report, they have made some recommendations regarding to governance at local government level in Wakiso. So, what remedies could there be for you to get this information, disseminate it, and actually have it functioning?
You know, if you want something to work, you don't have always to worry about the gymnastic in between, because if you worry about that, you'll never do anything. The challenges of disseminating information is well known that it is costly, takes a lot of time, but there must be a way of sharing information. Of course, first and foremost, reports must be able to be sent back to those institutions which are part of the report, because not every entity that has been investigated has a lot of issues to be dealt with. Maybe they have found out that there were no issues as originally mentioned, but also giving them a report to exonerate them is also not bad. I think first and foremost, the Speaker of Parliament, having got a report from that committee, must find a way of sharing it with the ministry that is concerned, in line with whatever they are investigating on. In our case, it's the Ministry of Local Government. It must be given an opportunity. In local government, if it is about finance, we have a local government finance commission, where I was a member for 8 years, and I know what it does. It can share that information. The local governments have an association, Uganda Local Government, Uluga, Uganda Local Government Association, through which they can still share that information. Other than that, even the districts, for example, or municipalities, have their own councils and leadership. Such information can go back. That can help us not to waste the government resources. Members of Parliament to travel out of Parliament, it's not a simple issue. They are coming out with vehicles, with allowances, I believe so, with so many security operatives and many other advanced teams. So that cost cannot just be collapsed into just a report which is not put to work. Shelving that kind of report will not give us value. At the end of the day, people continuously look at these committees as if they do nothing after those investigations. But I want to believe that it's essential. Like any other person, even in your own family, if you don't look into your children's bedroom, you will find all the shirts and the dresses scattered on the floor the day you enter there. So the best way is to remind your children that anytime you cross into their bedroom, you are trying to find out, and then you put things right. But if you do, and you don't come back that whole year, maybe the same challenge will come back. But I think government is trying to do something good through these members of Parliament, and they're also doing something good for the nation. What we need is a follow-up. Okay, and all right. Whereas a follow-up is necessary, they must also capture the challenges that are found on the ground. Because I think that's where we have an issue. You come to investigate, but people are giving you the challenges they are facing, and your main aim is only to see that the road is not properly done. But have you found out the challenges? These days we are talking about issues of infrastructure. But there are many challenges associated with the 1 billion given to Wakiso.
So I guess that's another maybe mismatch that Honorable would be able to speak into, that in as much as you are guided by primarily what has been audited on government level, and you come to do checks and balances on what has been audited. But the realities on ground are also quite different as to why primarily some of these elements are actually at the level that they are. Either poorly executed or not even executed to begin with, which I know intervenes with your responsibilities. How are you going to mitigate that?
I think that's the reason why we invite people, because by inviting, we are not finger pointing. We want to hear from you what even the challenges that Ingini is talking about. The Auditor General says this. We want to hear, because we've had reports of COSASE or other public accounts committees, for instance, being thrown out by court on one ground alone, that you didn't give me a chance to be heard You didn't hear from me. So making a report without hearing from a person you're pinning is in law a ground for it to be thrown out. So it's important because we don't go there to witch hunt, and we make it clear every time we invite people that we are fact finding or truth finding. If you didn't do this because of this reason, then let us know and we include this in the report. We actually sometimes have helped some of those MDAs improve on, for instance, their budget. You can say that we are not doing this because the funding is limited. And we can also include that in our report, that if these people had been given funding, they would have done a better job. So it's not about witch hunting, it's about finding what exactly is the problem. And if the problem comes in the name of a challenge or the reasons why they couldn't do what they are mandated to do, we include that.
Okay. This is a scorecard from where some people are seated that government is using to show that they are working. Let me borrow a phrase from the legal side. Justice must be seen to be served or to be done. Replacing the word justice with accountability must be seen to be served. Transparency must be seen to be served, and action must be seen to be served. Geoffrey, this is where I want you to come in. Are you in support of this kind of public scorecard that is being used by the government right now, so that citizens can see that there's recommendations, or there's implementation, or there's enforcement, or there's action?
Well, there will come a time when each of us will be scrutinized in their own way. The Bible says that every man's actions shall be put to the public, like they will be displayed. There will be a time for accountability. Now, when you look at Uganda and you are an investor, let's say you're from Singapore, or you're from Malaysia, or even the United Kingdoms, and you read about a unit fighting against corruption called the Investors Protection Unit in Uganda. You want to invest in Uganda, and you've made some research about Uganda. You've learned that there is a unit called Investors Protection Unit. As an investor, would you invest in such a country? Would you want to invest in a country where you need a unit to protect you? Does that make sense? Would you look at the duplication of the units fighting corruption? We have the IGG, we have the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, we have 1,000 units duplicating and doing more or less the same things. So, in all sense, being sincere and honest and genuine with ourselves, what we are doing is a disservice to our nation. There is not much being done. And to whom much is given, much is owed. The public, actually, it is so sad that there is a discrepancy. There is a bridge, and it is hollow. Actually, it is supposed to be a bridge, but it is hollow. It has not been bridged between the members of the public and the public servants. The members of the public feel they do not have the power to hold public officials accountable. Be it these, we are talking about technocrats or politicians. Members of the public feel powerless. First of all, what happens when, for example, I'll give a basic example. When a member of the public goes to, there is maybe a thief who has been caught in a marketplace stealing some chicken, and police will come, arrest the thief, take him to police. You'll come as a witness. What happens? They will be asking you, because it is known, it is knowledge. They will be asking the member of the public, where were you? Asking questions that will dissuade them from providing more information. Why? Because they do not feel protected by the same system. Okay. They do not feel insulated from persecution. So during this time, when a member of the public feels like they will be targeted when they give out certain information, that makes it very difficult for them to come out and condemn these things, for them to come as witnesses, eye and ear witnesses, to say this is, because they know if you go out there and ask members of the public, they know who is a thief and who is not. Thank you. All
right. Now let's follow the money. Honorable Msisi, one of the biggest frustrations that taxpayers are having right now is hearing that money was lost, but they're not hearing enough of money was recovered. Where is this establishing financial losses? What mechanisms can be kicked in to actually recover some of these monies that are being lost?
Well, the first thing for us as Parliament is to attribute the loss to where it belongs in terms of report writing. Because like I earlier mentioned, there are times when we've received or seen reports of Parliament which are vague in terms of attributing the loss, which you mentioned that you've uncovered so much, you've found out all this road, but then you don't attribute the loss to anywhere. So it's important that you are specific in your recommendations, because even if you make a report of Parliament, which is it becomes a public document, any good-spirited citizen can even pick it up and can even start litigation about it, public interest litigation. So you need to make a specific recommendation attributing the loss to a particular individual or individuals. That is the first point as Parliament. Then secondly, it goes to the other issue that we talked about, that the people responsible for implementing that report should pick it up. If indeed there is a criminal element, CID can kick it up and prosecute, or IGG is a prosecuting body. Or in terms of the operations, IGG has even since started the issue of recovery. Many times they enter into agreements with these people who are they charging to recover the actual money, and they bring them back. They have confiscated assets of suspects. So the key issue is that there are other agencies, and why we don't see a lot of that money being recovered actually is because the other people don't, like I mentioned, sometimes the reports are not specific, but even where they're specific, the other people who are supposed to complete the process, to use the word, don't do their job. If you go, even Auditor General's reports, by the way, people who are talking about corruption, they don't even have to look elsewhere. Just go to Auditor General's reports of the last 5 years and see what is happening. Just go to the accountability committees of Parliament reports for the last 5 years and see the recommendations. You can see that there are some accounting. Then, of course, COSASE deals with accounting officers. The ministry responsible for accounting officers is the Minister of Finance. The PSS is the one who appoints them. He is supposed to take action on these accounting officers, if indeed there is one who has been found culpable. So the recovery is not so much the issue of Parliament. It's so much after recommendations for the responsible authorities to kick in and ensure that it's done.
Engineer, when we come back 6 months or 12 months from today, same panel, same discussion. What should we measure to be the determinant on whether investigations of Parliament and its committees have succeeded? Would it be recovery of money? Would it be officials being sanctioned, the persecution we're seeing? Would it be institutional reforms? Would it be improved service delivery? What would it be, especially on a local government perspective?
I think almost everything you have mentioned is necessary, but I must mention that the main purpose of local governments, why there is decentralization, is to bring service nearer to the people. Therefore, service delivery takes the lead. We believe that whatever we are receiving from the center is basically to implement the programs of the central government in the interest of the manifesto, in this case the manifesto of National Resistance Movement, as much as also making sure that our national vision is also focused on deeply. So what we expect is that whatever we are doing is to improve on the service delivery, focusing on our vision and the NRM manifesto. I believe that at the end of the day, each one of us will benefit, because as you know, the government of Uganda is now under the leadership of National Resistance Movement. Its manifesto must be implemented to the dot. However, the challenges associated with this is that, do we have the issues that have been raised by local governments being considered in the period of the 6 months? Because that's where the other lacuna is.
In the period of the 6 months, we're entering the budgeting cycle.
Yes.
So within that can be incorporated or considered within this budgeting
cycle.
Exactly.
That's what we are saying. Whereas we are enforcing.
But anyway, even if the budgeting cycle comes, consideration at the closing of the budgeting cycle is what I believe you're meaning.
What I'm looking at is your wonderful question. Within the 6 months, what happens? Because if we are going to implement and do whatever we are supposed to do, we must look at both the challenges and the lack in this case, if you are failing to do this and you have the resources, how do we work on that? But if there are challenges, even when there are resources, some of these issues might not be done. I was giving you a very small example. Yeah. If you are using the whole country and you say we are giving for roads 1 billion per district, are you aware of the high traffic in Wachiso alone? Are you comparing it with Abim? Abim, these are my brothers. Are you comparing it with the Namayingo?
1 billion should be for Chira alone.
Yes. So you find that you are saying you are giving these districts 1 billion. What have you done with this money in the roads? Wachiso district, one road can take all this money and still remains yearning for more. So we need to look at all those issues and say, okay, how much are we improving? So that the reports are reflective of not only the challenges we are facing in the implementation, but also on the way forward on how to handle this. Because I think that's the beginning of moving forward.
All right, thank you so much, Engineer. Geoffrey, what would matter most to the ordinary Ugandan?
What would matter most? What would matter most is an ordinary Ugandan needs, like you said, you borrowed the legal terms, something has to be seen. Justice
must be seen to be served.
Yes, something has to be seen. Something has to be experienced. It does not make sense to just make pronouncements, just like recently. I'm not condemning them, but we are saying there is a better way of doing certain things, really, because we are dealing with a nation, we have a vision, we have a work plan. Recently, there's been a lot of conversation about the cleanup exercises, for example. I'll give it as an example. We wake up one day, and it seems like maybe someone has just woken up out of their bed and they are making pronouncements on media. Tomorrow, this is happening.
Okay.
And when you look at it, it is affecting families that are traveling. It is affecting families that had planned weddings. It is affecting families, that observe the Sabbath. So we don't need to treat the country as if we are not accountable to it. We need to treat the country and the citizens like we are their servants. We are supposed to serve the people, and it is not the other way around. When we make these sudden pronouncements and sudden movements in the east, in the west, in the north, it does, at the end of the day, people see through this facade and they are able to tell that this is not working. I was watching the news recently and I was dumbfounded by what I saw, that the building that houses the it is called the Equal Opportunities Commission, does not even have elevators. Yet this is a commission supposedly working to serve those underprivileged people. So that is the quagmire we are in as a country. And if we just talk about, actually, it may even sound insensitive to certain people when we talk about these things. We may not access certain offices tomorrow. Why? Because you address something that is, to them, you should not have addressed given that platform. It looks sad when I'm here with Honorable Cheyune and I talk about something to do with how to improve the district of Wakiso, and then tomorrow I go to his office, he locks the doors behind me saying, that is, you exposed me, you did bad. But I'm not exposing, actually, I'm awakening you. I'm pointing to where the challenge is so that we can solve it together. Okay. However, when we continue persecuting, not prosecuting, but persecuting our informants, the whistleblowers, we are creating more rot. Thank you.
Honorable Musisi, what should we measure to determine whether COSASE's investigations have succeeded?
Well, it should be regarding whether you've reported what you found. Because if you look at, of course, sometimes you have limitations, especially of time, like Engineer hinted about it. COSASE, for instance, has over 150 entities that is supposed to look into. And this particular work that we are doing we are given 6 months by Parliament. We are 2 months down. So we have less than 4 months to conclude looking into over 150 entities. We can't do all of everything. And that includes other parliamentary work, that includes sometimes the oversight visits. So to determine success would be that for the work that you've done, to what extent have you gone in the little time that you've done to cover the entities that you can cover reasonably, and for what because it's not about covering the bigger extent, but also making meaningful reports into what you've done and laying them before Parliament. Because I wouldn't say that we don't go there to witch hunt, but what have you found? Have you reported it? That is the most important thing.
One thing COSASE must do differently after investigations.
Make specific recommendations. That is one of the things that has been lacking a lot. Make specific and particular recommendations regarding what you found, because if they are specific, it's easier to attribute. It's easier to attribute the accountability issues that you found to particular people. Even where the responsible officers have not taken them up, posterity will judge us right. It judged the Joe Senyini led COSASE right in Uganda Airlines. So even where they are not implemented immediately, because these things of the CEO, the regular appointment, the mismanagement, the incompetence, they were unearthed, they were put in a report. It was shelved. 3 years down the road, it was found that the other one was the right thing. There was issues to do with the Naguru land, same issues. Okay. So make specific findings, report them, the future will judge you right.
Engineer Choine, one accountability reform that you would recommend be introduced at local government level to improve service delivery?
I think the most important thing is not to make these committees look like it's a court, because accountability is a shared responsibility at both national and lower or local governments or subnational level. What we need is to make these ones a friendly interaction which can help everyone to be open. Sometimes people come with already a stiff skin, ready to give answers even when actually that is not what it is. There must be a real interaction which doesn't make these committees look like courts of law, asking questions and not sometimes even giving time for people to give correct answers, give proper information in terms of documents. You find that when people are in these committees, they are actually at their tentacles, they are busy thinking that anything wrong is going to happen. There must be a peaceful way of interaction. Even when you do that, you can find out. I don't have a court, but quite often when I talk to people, I discover maybe because I'm a teacher, it is easier for me to do that kind of interaction. Okay. Because at the end of the day, the main aim is not to calculate people, but to make sure they understand the purpose of giving service. I'm happy to hear my young brother here talking about the cleaning exercise. Honorable Musisi knows that the Prime Minister is coming to Chira on Saturday 29th. This time we have organized ourselves very well in Wachiso. We have put up a committee making sure that when the Prime Minister comes, we join her in Chari Wajala and we make sure that we clean our areas. But we're also going to remain in the rest of Wachiso. Yesterday I had a discussion on a certain television with the Prime Minister, and she said it's not only going to be in Chari Wajala or Wachiso, but the whole country. Okay. So we are ready to do that, and I think this time our people are organizing themselves well. And on Saturday, the SDA people are not going to get involved. But on Sunday,
they will do it. All right, Geoffrey, as we come to the close of this, I'll give you the final word. One thing that government must do to restore the people's trust in public institutions?
Involve the people. In everything you do, involve members of the public. That is it. Okay. If you do not involve the members of the public, if you do not involve the ordinary person in whatever you're doing, it is doomed to fail. For example, just like the cleaning exercise the Honorable Cheyune has talked about, you need to create more sensitization, more engagement, more involvement. We don't need to see another viral picture of a Ugandan being clobbered by a police officer just because of the cleaning exercises, really. Those things are not good sins that we are supposed to be witnessing and promoting. We are supposed to promote a different culture. Involve the people, engage with the people. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mugisha, Geoffrey, thank you so much for being with us on this table. Engineer Chayune Ian, thank you so much for being with us. You've opened a can of worms. Some people are asking, from the last National Cleaning Day. So maybe you can speak into that briefly. In Wakiso, is there a solution that will be immediate to clear the garbage off the roads?
Yes, we have given ourselves an ultimatum of 2 days, that within 2 days we must have cleared. But we're also putting up a system of sanitation committees per village, which is going to help us to handle issues of garbage in the normal days other than the national cleaning days.
All right.
We are also looking at making sure that we involve our service providers who will assist them with some little input in terms of fuel so that they collect as much as possible. But we are also engaging our people that your garbage in your home must be managed by yourself.
Okay,
but the ones we want to look at basically is that which is stray garbage, which is in the public.
All right.
That's the one
Engineer, we shall be engaging with you. The 29th is around the corner,
yes.
And so we'll come to Wakiso.
I'm ready to come back and give you our program. Yes.
Ground.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the conversation that we have had looking into the actionable steps that can be taken when all is done and dusted, the investigations have been wrapped up. Accountability is not about how many officials have been summoned or how many reports have been tabled by different committees in our parliament. It is entirely about what happens next. Whether public money is recovered, responsibility is established, systems are fixed, and taxpayers are seeing better results, because the real test of any investigation is simple. What changes after the cameras are gone? That is the true test that we all want to see as a country moving forward. That brings us to the end of this discussion. However, when you get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor, no ride home has been the situation for so many of you that use public means of transport to access various parts of the country because of the ongoing 100-day DMC operation by Ministry of Works and Transport, as well as police. Now, you do have different stakeholders such as Forum for Democratic Change that came out yesterday to say, look here, we can look to the alternative existing means of transport that can be used by people in order to move from point A to point B. One of those is railway movement. So we do have Stephen Bide, who is looking into the railway movement and people and how easily they have adopted given the circumstances that are befalling them in this 100 days. Stephen Bide will be joining us after this break.